The buzzing sound cut through the backyard party like a scream. I turned from the grill, potato salad sliding off my paper plate, and saw my daughter-in-law Tara standing behind my 5-year-old grandson with electric clippers in her hand. Owen's small body shook as she dragged the blades down the center of his head. His mouth opened wide, crying, but the music was too loud for anyone to hear. Tara was laughing. Actually laughing. My name is Eleanor Briggs. I'm 86 years old, and in that moment, watching my grandson's hair fall in clumps onto the grass while adults sipped lemonade and pretended not to notice, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the grandmother who stayed quiet. I wasn't going to be the old woman who minded her own business while a child suffered. Some people my age worry about being called difficult or pushy. I'd lived too long to care about that anymore. Please tell me something in the comments section. Where are you watching this story from? And take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel, because every day there's a real story that will shake your heart. I dropped my plate on the concrete patio. The potato salad I'd spent all morning making splattered across the stones, but I didn't care. My legs moved before my brain caught up, carrying me across the lawn toward Owen. What are you doing? The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't apologize. Tara looked up at me, that smile still on her face, like this was all perfectly normal. Teaching him a lesson, Eleanor. Maybe now he'll tell the truth. She said it so casually, like she was explaining how to train a puppy. Owen's shoulders shook harder. I could see the red marks on his scalp where the clippers had scraped too close. Without thinking, I unwrapped the scarf from around my neck and knelt beside him. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I wrapped the soft fabric around his raw head as gently as I could. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered, even though nothing about this was okay. Owen pressed his face into my stomach, his tears soaking through my blouse. I held him there, one hand on his back, feeling each sob that shook his small frame. Around us, the party had gone silent. Someone had finally turned down the music. I could feel eyes on us. Michael, my son, stood frozen by the grill with metal tongs in his hand. His face had gone pale, but he didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there like a statue while his wife humiliated his child. That's when I saw something that made my blood run cold. Michael bent down slowly and picked up the clipper cord from where it had been lying on the ground. He wound it around his hand, his eyes fixed on his shoes. He'd been part of this. My own son had helped plan this punishment. Then I noticed something else through the sliding glass door. A whiteboard hung on the kitchen wall with words written in black marker. I helped Owen to his feet, keeping the scarf secure around his head. My throat burned with anger. I couldn't let out in front of him. As we walked toward the house, I got a clearer view of that board. Discipline board, someone had written across the top. Down the left side was a list: talking back, forgetting chores, lying. Next to lying were 2 black check marks. And next to those checks, one word in capital letters: shave. My hands started shaking. This wasn't a one-time loss of temper. This was planned. Organized. A system. I guided Owen past the board, past the other guests who were suddenly very interested in their hot dogs, and toward my car. Tara called after me, her voice light and unconcerned. Eleanor, don't be dramatic. He'll be fine. Hair grows back. I didn't turn around. I didn't trust myself to speak. I just kept walking, one hand on Owen's shoulder, the other digging in my purse for my keys. As I opened my car door, something made me glance at the trash bin beside the garage. The lid was propped open, and sitting right on top was a clear plastic bag. Even from several feet away, I could see what was written on it in black marker. July number 2. My stomach dropped. I walked over, still holding Owen's hand, and looked inside the bag. Hair. Soft brown hair, unmistakably Owen's. This wasn't the first time. The number 2 meant they'd done this before. They'd shaved my grandson's head before, and they'd kept the hair like some kind of trophy or evidence. I thought about the last time I'd seen Owen, 3 weeks ago at Sunday dinner. He'd been wearing a baseball cap the whole time, even indoors. "I just like it," he'd said when I asked. Now I understand. My hands clenched into fists, and I had to remind myself that Owen was watching. I took a deep breath, picked up the bag and put it in my car. Evidence. That's what my late husband would have called it. The drive to my house took 12 minutes, but it felt like hours. Owen fell asleep in the back seat almost immediately, exhausted from crying. I kept checking him in the rearview mirror. His small face peaceful now, the scarf slipping down to reveal the angry red skin underneath. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat for a long moment with the engine off, my hands gripping the steering wheel. What had just happened? What kind of mother does that to her child? What kind of father lets it happen? I thought about my husband, who has been gone for 8 years. He'd been a teacher for 40 years, patient and gentle with every student. "Gentle makes men strong," he used to say. "Fear just makes them small." I carried Owen inside, still sleeping, and laid him on my couch with his favorite blanket. Then I picked up the paper cup he'd been drinking from at the party. I don't know why I grabbed it. Maybe I wanted to hold on to something innocent from before the world had tilted sideways. I placed Owen's cup on my mantle, right next to the photo of my husband in his teaching clothes. Then I pulled out my journal, the blue leather one he'd given me 30 years ago for our anniversary. My hands were steadier now. The rage that had burned hot and wild in Tara's backyard had cooled into something harder, something more useful. I wrote everything down, every single detail. The date, July 16th. The time, approximately 3:15 in the afternoon. Who was there? Michael, Tara, Owen, myself, plus about 15 other family members and friends. What Tara said. Teaching him a lesson. Maybe now he'll tell the truth. What Michael did. Picked up the clipper cord, avoided my eyes. The discipline board. The bag is labeled July number 2. I filled 4 pages in my careful handwriting, and with each word, I felt my purpose sharpen. This was going to be a long fight. But I'd lived through a war, raised 3 children, buried a husband, and survived cancer twice. I knew how to fight battles that mattered. The next morning, I woke early and sat at my kitchen table with my good stationery. Not an email. Not a text message. A real letter, written by hand, the way serious things should be communicated. I addressed it to Michael and Tara, and chose my words carefully. I explained what I'd witnessed and why it concerned me. I talked about research on childhood development, about dignity and respect, about alternative discipline methods that actually worked. I offered to help. I could take Owen after school, give them breaks, and help with homework. I wasn't trying to take over or judge them. I just wanted Owen to be safe. I signed it with love and concern, Eleanor, and mailed it that Tuesday morning. I felt good about it. Reasonable. Kind but firm. Thursday afternoon, I got my letter back in the mail. Tara had scrawled one line across the bottom in red ink. Reduce contact effective immediately. I read those 5 words over and over, each time feeling like I'd been slapped. They were cutting me off from Owen because I dared to speak up. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be solved with gentle letters. I called Michael that evening. He didn't answer. I called again the next morning. No answer. Finally, on the 3rd try he picked up. His voice sounded tired and flat. "Mom, I can't really talk right now." "Then just listen," I said. "We need to meet. You and me. No Tara. Just us." There was a long silence. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Michael, I'm your mother. I'm asking you to have coffee with me. 1 hour. Please." Another silence. Then quietly, "Okay. Friday. The diner on Oak Street." "But Mom, please don't make this harder than it already is." Harder than it already is. Like I was the problem. Like I was making things difficult by caring whether my grandson was being humiliated. I agreed and hung up. Friday couldn't come fast enough. When it finally did, I arrived at the diner 30 minutes early. I ordered coffee I didn't drink and sat in a booth by the window, watching the parking lot. Michael pulled up at exactly 2 o'clock, right on time, looking over his shoulder before he got out of his car like he was afraid someone might be watching. Michael sat down across from me and immediately started stirring his coffee. Around and around, his spoon clinked against the cup, even though he hadn't added cream or sugar. He wouldn't look at me. "Mom," he started, but I held up my hand. "Let me talk first, please." I told him everything I'd observed. The shaving, the board, the bag of hair, his role in it. He didn't deny any of it, which somehow made it worse. Instead, he said, "Tara grew up tough. Her parents were really strict with her. She thinks kids these days are too soft, and this is how you raise strong children." Strong. I repeated. Michael, that child was sobbing. He was humiliated in front of everyone he knows. That doesn't make him strong. That makes him scared. He flinched but kept stirring. "Owen lies sometimes, Mom. Little stuff, but still. Tara thinks we need to fix it now before it becomes a real problem." We agreed that shaving would help him remember the consequences. The word agreed hit me like a punch. "You agreed," I said slowly, making sure I understood. "To humiliate your 5-year-old child as punishment." Michael's face crumpled slightly. "It sounds bad when you say it like that." "It sounds bad because it is bad." My voice was rising, and I forced it back down. Getting angry wouldn't help. "Michael, you're his father. You're supposed to protect him, not help hurt him." "I am protecting him," he said, but there was no conviction in his voice. "I'm teaching him that actions have consequences. That lying is serious. There are 100 ways to teach that lesson without shame," I said. "You know that. You were raised differently." His phone buzzed on the table between us. We both looked down at the screen. A text from Tara lit up. "If you let her near him, we're done." Michael grabbed the phone quickly and shoved it in his pocket, but I'd already seen it. The threat was clear. Choose your wife or your mother. Choose your marriage or your child's well-being. I sat back in the booth, suddenly exhausted. "Michael, I'm not trying to break up your family. But I won't be quiet while Owen suffers." After that failed coffee meeting, I decided to try a different approach. I'd been a kindergarten teacher for 20 years before I retired. I knew how schools worked, and I knew teachers noticed things that parents tried to hide. On Monday morning, I drove to Owen's elementary school and asked to speak with his teacher. The secretary made me wait in the office for 20 minutes, but eventually a young woman came out. Miss Porter was maybe 30 years old, with kind eyes and paint stains on her cardigan sleeves. She looked tired. "Mrs. Briggs, I'm glad you reached out," she said, leading me to her empty classroom. We sat at her desk, the walls around us covered in colorful alphabet posters and student artwork. "I need to tell you something," I began, but she interrupted gently. "I know about the haircut. The kids have been asking Owen about it all week." She pulled out a notebook filled with neat handwriting. "I document everything," she explained. "It's part of my job. Last Tuesday, Owen hid under the art table during free time. Some boys were laughing about his shaved head. One asked him, 'Is hair only for good boys?' Owen didn't answer. He just curled up tighter." Miss Porter flipped through more pages. "I've been noticing changes in Owen for a while now. He flinches when I raise my hand too quickly, even if I'm just pointing at the board. He started having bathroom accidents, which is unusual for his age. Last week, he fell asleep during story time and wet himself. Each word landed like a stone in my stomach. He's anxious all the time, she continued. Jumpy. He apologizes constantly, even for things that aren't his fault. She slid a business card across the desk. This is our school counselor. I think Owen should talk to someone professionally. Then she showed me something else. A printed email from Tara to her, dated 2 weeks earlier. I read it twice to make sure I understood. Ms. Porter, regarding Owen's emotional sensitivity, please don't coddle him. Grit and resilience matter more than comfort. He needs to learn that the world is tough. Thank you, Tara Torres. Ms. Porter's expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the disapproval in her eyes. Mrs. Briggs, I'm a mandatory reporter. If I see signs of harm, I have to act. Right now, I'm documenting and watching closely. I left the school with Ms. Porter's notes burning in my mind. That afternoon, I did something I'd been avoiding. I called Michael again, and this time I didn't ask. I told him, "You're taking Owen to the pediatrician this week. I'll pay for the appointment if money is an issue, but this has to happen." "Mom, he's fine. You're overreacting." Michael, his teacher, says he's having accidents and flinching away from raised hands. That's not fine. That's trauma. There was a long pause. Then quietly, "Okay, I'll make an appointment. I want to be there." Tara won't like that. I don't care what Tara likes. This is about Owen. Friday afternoon found me sitting in Dr. Keen's waiting room, my knitting needles clicking steadily as I made a new scarf for Owen. This one was green, his favorite color. Inside the exam room, Michael and Tara met with the doctor. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I watched the clock. 20 minutes. 30. 45. When they finally emerged, Michael's face was pale. Tara's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Dr. Keen walked them to the checkout desk, his voice professional but firm. "I'm writing this down so there's no confusion. No humiliation-based discipline. The razor burn on Owen's scalp needs to heal, and I want him evaluated by a child psychologist for anxiety." He handed Michael a paper with everything printed out. Michael took it with shaking hands and nodded. Tara said nothing, just grabbed her purse and walked toward the exit. I stood up, putting my knitting away. As I headed to my own car, Tara appeared beside me in the parking lot. She stepped close, her voice low and venomous. "You think you won something today? You didn't. Push me again, and next time he starts school completely bald. And it'll be your fault." She walked away before I could respond, her heels clicking on the asphalt. I stood there for a moment, my heart pounding, before I got in my car. That threat changed everything. This wasn't about discipline anymore. This was about power and control. And Tara had just declared war. I spent that weekend thinking carefully about my next move. Getting angry wouldn't help Owen. Screaming at Tara wouldn't change her mind. I needed to be smarter than that. On Monday morning, I called Michael and Tara both and invited them to my house. "No fighting," I said. "Just soup and conversation. We need to find a solution that works for everyone." I made chicken noodle soup, my husband's favorite recipe, and fresh bread. I set my kitchen table with my good dishes. Michael arrived first, looking nervous. Tara came 20 minutes late, which I suspected was intentional. Then someone else knocked on my door. Patrice, Tara's mother, walked in without waiting for an invitation. She wore sunglasses inside and a tight smile. "I heard we were having a family meeting," she said. "My daughter won't be shamed by a relic who doesn't understand modern parenting." I took a slow breath and returned to my seat. From my folder, I pulled out printed information. community mediation services, parenting classes with excellent reviews, research articles on effective discipline. I slid them across the table. Tara barely glanced at the papers before pushing them away. My kid, my rules, she said simply. Patrice leaned forward, her voice sharp. Eleanor, you helped with their house addition last year. We appreciate that. But we can finish it without your help now. You need to step back. The threat was unmistakable. Stop interfering, or lose your connection to Owen forever. After they left, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time thinking. Then I made a phone call. Mr. Harrison? This is Eleanor Briggs. I need to talk to you about protecting my grandson. My attorney had handled my husband's estate years ago. He was thorough and honest, exactly what I needed now. I explained everything, showed him my journal, the doctor's note, and the teacher's concerns. What can I legally do? I asked. More than you think, he said. We spent 2 hours going through options. The first thing we did was set up the Owen Wellness Trust. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but enough to pay for therapy and educational support. The money could only be used for Owen's direct benefit, not general household expenses. Then we looked at something else entirely. Last year, I'd given Michael and Tara $50,000 for their house addition. But I hadn't given it as a gift. I'd made it a loan, interest-free and payable only when they sold the house. I'd been generous with the terms because they were family. But I'd also been careful. I had the signed promissory note, properly notarized. Mr. Harrison helped me formalize it again, making sure every detail was correct and legally binding. You have the right to notify their lender about this loan, he explained. It's part of the original agreement. The lender needs to know about all claims on the property. I sent the notification that week. 3 days later, a for sale sign appeared in Michael and Tara's front yard. My phone rang 5 minutes after I drove past and saw it. Michael's voice was strained. Mom, what did you do? Tara's furious. We can't refinance now without paying you back first, and we don't have that kind of cash. I didn't do anything except follow our legal agreement, I said calmly. The one you and Tara signed. You're trying to control us with money. No, Michael. I'm protecting my legal interests. There's a difference. Michael called me the following Tuesday night. His voice was shaking, barely above a whisper. Mom, Tara's planning another consequence night. Owen forgot his lunch at school today. She says he needs to learn responsibility. My chest went tight. What kind of consequence? The same kind. I grabbed my purse and my car keys. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't let her start. Mom, you can't just show up. She'll lose it. I'm already in my car. I drove faster than I should have, my hands gripping the wheel. When I pulled up to their house, I could see through the front window. Tara stood in the kitchen, clippers in her hand. Michael stood frozen nearby, his face pale. Owen peeked around the corner from the hallway, his eyes wide with fear. I grabbed the box of cookies I kept in my car for Owen, and walked up to their porch. I didn't knock. I rang the doorbell and called through the door. Michael, open up. I have something for Owen. Michael opened the door slowly. I didn't ask to come in. I just stood there on the porch and spoke clearly. Read the doctor's note again. Please. Out loud. Right now. Michael's hands trembled as he walked to the counter and picked up the paper Dr. Keene had given him. His voice cracked as he read. No humiliation-based discipline of any kind. The patient shows signs of anxiety that may be exacerbated by shame-based punishment methods. Tara stood behind him, still holding the clippers. Her face was red with anger. This is my house, Eleanor. You need to leave. I will, I said calmly. Right after Michael finishes reading. Owen appeared in the hallway, watching everything. Our eyes met for just a second. I saw the fear there, but also something else. Hope, maybe. Or recognition that someone was fighting for him. Tara looked at Owen, then at me, then at the clippers in her hand. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then she threw the clippers into the sink with a loud clang. "Fine," she spat. "Tonight only. But this isn't over, Eleanor." I handed the cookies to Michael. "For Owen. I'll see you soon, sweetheart." I walked back to my car with my heart pounding, knowing I'd just made things more complicated. But Owen still had his hair. That mattered more than keeping the peace. I decided we needed outside help. Professional mediation might work where family conversations had failed. I found a community mediation center downtown and paid for a session. Michael agreed to come. Tara agreed reluctantly. We met in a small room at the community center with beige walls and uncomfortable chairs. The facilitator, a woman named Carla, had gray hair and a calm demeanor that reminded me of a therapist. She started by explaining the process and setting ground rules. Then she got to the heart of it. "Tara, can you explain your discipline philosophy?" Tara sat up straight. "I believe in teaching children that actions have real consequences. My parents were strict with me, and I turned out fine. Kids today are coddled and soft. Owen needs to learn that life is hard and lying is unacceptable." "And the head shaving specifically?" Carla asked. "It's memorable. He won't forget the consequences of lying now." Carla turned to Michael. "What do you think?" Michael looked down at his hands. "I thought it would work. But seeing Owen so scared all the time, I don't know anymore." Carla pulled out some papers. "Let me share what research tells us about humiliation-based discipline. Studies show that shame doesn't reduce unwanted behaviors. Instead, it increases anxiety, damages self-esteem, and actually makes lying more likely because children become afraid to tell the truth." She went through several studies, speaking calmly and factually. Michael listened, nodding slowly. His face showed something like relief, as if someone was finally confirming what he'd been feeling. Tara laughed. Actually, I laughed. "Studies? Soft men make weak boys. My father never coddled me, and I'm successful. I have a career. I'm strong. That came from tough discipline." Patrice, sitting beside her daughter, jumped in. "Exactly. If Michael starts playing the victim here, we'll pull our financial help. Family loyalty goes both ways, Eleanor. You need to remember that." The session ended with nothing resolved. Carla looked frustrated but professional. As I gathered my things to leave, she caught my arm. "Mrs. Briggs, I'm required to write a factual summary of this session. It becomes part of the official record. If this ever goes to court, this document will exist." I understood what she wasn't quite saying. This was evidence. The school called me on a Thursday afternoon. Ms. Porter's voice was urgent, stressed. "Mrs. Briggs, I need to tell you what happened today." Tara showed up during lunch period with scissors. She wanted to even out Owen's hair in the cafeteria. My stomach dropped. In front of all the other children? Yes. The principal and I stopped her immediately. It's against school policy to do any kind of grooming on campus except for true emergencies. We wrote an incident report and called the school counselor to observe Owen for the rest of the day. I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm. "How is Owen?" "Very anxious. He keeps asking if he did something wrong, if he's in trouble." Mrs. Briggs, the counselor, pulled me aside after observing him. She said something I think you should know. Ms. Porter paused. She said if this situation ever goes to court, the judge might want to appoint a guardian ad litem. That's someone who represents the child's best interests separately from either parent. "Thank you for telling me," I said quietly. And thank you for protecting him today. After I hung up, I sat down and added this to my journal. The pages were filling up with incidents I wished I didn't have to document. Saturday became sacred. Our day. Michael brought Owen to my house, telling Tara it was just for a few hours to give her a break. We baked chocolate chip cookies, getting flour everywhere. We made paper crowns out of colored construction paper. Then Owen had an idea. Can we make paper hair, Grandma? We cut strips of brown and yellow paper and glued them to a paper headband. Owen wore his paper hair under a baseball cap and smiled for the first time in weeks. While we cleaned up the kitchen, I knelt down to his level. Owen, I want you to know something. You're good and loved with or without hair. Hair doesn't make you good. Your heart makes you good. He looked at me with those serious brown eyes. Then he whispered, Don't tell Mom I like it here better than home. I didn't promise to keep secrets. Secrets had protected the wrong things for too long. But I did promise him something else. You're always safe with me. Always. That evening, right as the sun was setting, someone banged on my door. Hard. Tara's voice came through loud and angry. I know he's in there, Eleanor. You're turning my son against me. I didn't open the door. Through the window, I could see Tara on my porch, her face twisted with rage. She pounded again. This is parental alienation. I could take you to court for this. Owen had frozen in the living room, his paper crown crooked on his head. I put my hand on his shoulder. It's okay. Stay here. I went to the door but didn't unlock it. Tara, Owen is visiting his grandmother. Michael brought him here. We're making cookies. There's nothing wrong with that. You're poisoning him against me. I'm his mother. And I'm his grandmother. If you want to discuss this, we can talk calmly. But I'm not opening this door while you're yelling. Through the window, I saw a patrol car cruise slowly down my street on its routine neighborhood rounds. I waved at Officer Martinez, who lived 2 blocks over. He waved back, slowing down when he saw Tara on my porch. Tara saw the police car too. Her expression changed. She stepped back from my door, smoothed her hair, and walked quickly to her car. After she drove away, I stood at the door for a long time, my heart pounding. Then I went back to Owen and finished decorating cookies like nothing had happened. But that night I made a decision. I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote another letter. This one was different. Firmer. More formal. I wrote to both Michael and Tara, explaining my boundaries clearly. I would not host Owen if his safety or dignity was at risk. I would always comply with any court orders regarding custody or visitation. I would support co-parenting efforts and counseling. But I would not be silent about practices that harmed my grandson. I made it clear. These weren't threats. They were boundaries. I mailed copies to Michael, to Tara, and to my attorney. I kept one copy in my kitchen drawer. The next week, I received a response. Not a letter. A legal document. The return address was from a law office downtown. Inside was a cease and desist letter. Interference with parental rights. It accused me of undermining Tara's authority, coaching Owen against his mother, and causing family conflict. It demanded I stop all contact with Owen, unless supervised directly by Tara. My hands shook as I read it. I called Mr. Harrison immediately. What do I do? He read through the document carefully. It's a scare tactic, Eleanor. You haven't done anything illegal. But I think it's time for Michael to take legal action himself. This situation needs a judge's input. Michael met with a family law clinic the following Tuesday. The consultation was free for low-income families, and Michael qualified since he and Tara were drowning in debt. The attorney there, Ms. Reeves, was a young woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She listened to everything Michael told her. She reviewed Dr. Keene's notes, Miss Porter's incident reports, and the pages from my journal that I'd shared with Michael. You have grounds for emotion, she told him. Nothing dramatic. Just asking the court to prohibit humiliation-based discipline, establish a clear parenting schedule, and require both parents to attend counseling. Michael looked terrified. Tara will never forgive me. Do you want Owen to forgive you? Ms. Reeves asked gently. That question hung in the air. Finally, Michael nodded. What do I need to do? Ms. Reeves helped him file the motion that week. It was careful and narrow, focused entirely on Owen's well-being. Michael attached Dr. Keene's note, Ms. Porter's incident report, a photo of the discipline board that he'd secretly taken before moving out. No drama. No accusations of abuse. Just facts and reasonable requests. The day after filing, Michael's phone buzzed with a text. I was sitting with him when it came through. Patrice's name appeared on the screen. If you drag us to court, you're done with this family. Don't expect any help from your father-in-law's business. You just destroyed your career. The preliminary hearing happened on a Wednesday morning. The courthouse smelled like old wood and floor polish. Michael sat at one table with Ms. Reeves. Tara sat at another table with her attorney, a stern man in an expensive suit. I sat in the back row, my hands folded in my lap, praying silently. The judge was a woman in her 50s with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore glasses on a chain and had sharp, intelligent eyes. She read through the motion, all the attachments, and both sides' responses. The courtroom was silent except for the rustling of papers. Finally, she looked up. Here's my temporary order, she said, her voice clear and firm. No humiliating punishments of any kind, effective immediately. Parenting time will be shared week on, week off until we have more information. Both parents will complete an evidence-based parenting class within 60 days. She looked directly at Tara. The proposed move away is frozen pending further review. This child needs stability. Tara's face went white, then red. Her hands clenched on the table. Outside the courtroom, she walked past Michael without speaking. But she stopped when she reached me in the hallway. She leaned close, her voice a hiss. Choose. Her or us. Michael showed up at my door that night carrying a duffel bag and Owen's favorite blanket, the blue one with yellow stars. He was shaking so hard he could barely hold his keys. I didn't ask questions. I just opened the door wider and let him in. Come on. I made stew. We sat at my kitchen table, 2 bowls of beef stew between us. Michael stared at his food without eating. Finally, I spoke. You don't have to choose me, Michael. Choose your boy. That's all that matters. His eyes filled with tears. I should have stopped it the first time. The very first time she suggested shaving his head, I should have said no. Yes, I agreed. You should have. But you're stopping it now. That counts for something. Owen came in from the living room where he'd been coloring. He held up a paper sign he'd made with markers. Owen's fort in crooked letters. We taped it to the spare bedroom door. That night, Michael slept in my guest room while Owen curled up on the couch with his star blanket. The next morning, an official notice came from their mortgage lender. I read it carefully. Because the house was listed for sale, and there was now a legal dispute about custody, the lender needed my signature to refinance the additional loan. Without my signature, the terms would accelerate and the full amount would be due. I folded the letter and put it in my drawer. I didn't sign. Not yet. The parenting class started the following Monday evening at a church basement across town. I drove Michael and waited in the hallway with Owen while the class met inside. Owen colored in a workbook I'd brought, humming quietly to himself. Through the door, I could hear the instructor's voice, calm and steady, talking about brain development in young children, and why punishment based on shame doesn't work. After the first session, Michael came out looking exhausted, but somehow lighter. How was it? I asked. Hard. The instructor talked about how children of Owen's age can't really understand the consequences yet. Their brains aren't developed enough. Shame just teaches them to hide things, not to actually change behavior. And Tara? Michael shook his head. She fought the instructor on everything. Said this was all liberal nonsense. The instructor marked her down as resistant in the notes. In the car on the way home, Michael was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Mom, I need to tell you something. The shaving idea, the very first time, was mine. I suggested it. I thought it would be a dramatic enough consequence that Owen would remember. I kept my eyes on the road. Do you still think that?" "No. God, no." "Then own the mistake," I said gently. "Own it if you want to move forward and do better."